So
and I will be the one that goes ahead and says that if everybody could turn off their cameras and mics while we set up for the pitchers, that'd be great. We appreciate that. We will have you turn them on during the networking event. So if everyone could turn off your cameras, and then when you pitch, you'll turn them back on too.
All right. Well, great. So this is Pitch Breakfast. If you haven't been to one of these in a bit, we're going to explain exactly what this event's all about here in just a minute. But it's an event where we say entrepreneurs pitch and panelists enrich. I'm Juan Garzon. I'm going to be the host for the event this morning. And with me, we've got Laura Smales, who's going to be the co-host and timekeeper. You'll be hearing her chime in here as we keep this train on the rails. We've got some amazing sponsors that we're going to introduce here in just a minute. But before we get started, we do have some quick guidelines that we want to review with everybody. First, as Laura mentioned, please keep your cameras off and yourself muted. This is because we're going to want to give as much attention as possible to the presentations and to the speakers who are going to be chatting here in just a minute. Second, if you have a question for a presenter or a panelist, let's say you've got an idea or you've got something that you'd like to clarify, please enter that into the chat. So depending on the time that we have, we can get to some of those questions during the presentation. But even if we can't, we're able to have the entrepreneur or the panelist answer those questions in the chat as we move on to other presentations. And of course, you're always going to have the networking portion at the end where you'll be able to contact or to talk to the presenter directly or to the panelist directly. And third, if for whatever reason you are unable to get logged in, if you get bumped out and you're not able to get logged in, this event is being live streamed on both our Facebook page, facebook.com/pitchbreakfast, as well as on YouTube. All right, so we're going to get started right in just a minute, and those pitches will last about an hour, and around 9:30, we're going to break up into networking rooms. And in those rooms, you'll have a chance to talk to other people in the community, as well as to the presenters themselves and the panelists. And we should wrap up right around 10 o'clock. All right, we've got some amazing companies that have helped make Pitch Breakfast a possibility here for now many years, including our very own Spengler and Agins, attorneys for the Charlotte startup community. These guys work with entrepreneurs, with local businesses on everything from getting started, your formation questions, all the way to getting ready for a funding or an exit event. Fantastic people to talk to just get some quick feedback, and amazing people to work with. We also have NK Patent Law, intellectual property and patent law attorneys who help with everything specifically having to do with intellectual property. So trademarks, patents, anything like that. Ani over at NK Patent Law are great people to talk to, always very, very helpful, work really well with a lot of startups in the area. Then we have Dual Boot Partners. Dual Boot Partners has been one of our greatest connectors and one of our great partners here at Pitch Breakfast. They work with management teams to build digital platforms. So they can re-platform your legacy system, build your minimum viable product, really be that technology co-founder, technology partner that a lot of founders need. They're also known as super connectors. You meet somebody from the Dual Boot team, and if you're looking for other connections in the Charlotte or even throughout the Southeast, there's a good chance that one of them knows them. So definitely reach out to Dual Boot Partners if you want to get more plugged into the ecosystem, get some connections, and of course, talk tech. And last but certainly not least, especially around April, Powderly Butchnick, they're our CPAs. They're CPAs to a lot of small businesses and a lot of startups in the area. And they specialize on everything from the accounting side to your tax side and everything else with your finances. Fantastic people to work with. And we also have this disclaimer. Pitch Breakfast is an event that is educational in nature. Companies that are pitching are practicing, not conducting a securities offering. So none of the companies that are pitching intend for this to be a general solicitation. So the translation there is you're going to hear these companies present and ask for money because they're raising capital or are making an ask. This is meant as a practice and not as a solicitation for you who are watching. And we have two amazing panelists. We have Steve Amedio. Steve's been with us, I think, since the very beginning. He's an all-around tech entrepreneur, And something that maybe not everybody knows about him, he's also the co-founder of the All In to Fight Cancer poker tournament and fundraising event. So Steve, thanks for being with us, and thanks for everything you do. And then we have Dr. Shantae Williams. Dr. Shantae Williams is a healthcare venture capitalist, an author with the new book out recently, or maybe not so recently. Time's really weird right now, Dr. Shantae, with the pandemic, but I know it was a few months back. Impact investor, keynote speaker. We really appreciate having you on. Steve, Dr. Shantae, feel free to turn on your cameras here. And there they are.
Hey there.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna do the virtual Zoom applause. All right, so here's the format for today. And again, we've got a packed schedule, so we're going to jump right into these. Each company is going to have 5 minutes to present their business model. So this is like your investor pitch. They're going to have slides to go along with that. And then we're going to have roughly 8 minutes of feedback and Q&A from the panelists. And again, if you have a question that you want to ask or a comment, please add it in the chat. And of course, if we have time, we will get to that. All right, so we're going to jump into the pitches. Before we do, one final reminder to please keep yourself on mute and keep your screen turned off unless you are one of the panelists or you are the company that is presenting at the moment. And with that, we should have, do we have Hal Eason with Mommy Brands, or Laura, do I have the wrong name?
Yeah, no, you have that correct. You have Mommy Brands. Actually, I think a couple of the team members are going to have their cameras on and sort of go in as well. So I think the team will, and we can maybe introduce everybody afterwards, but Hal will have actually control of the
All right, and so Hal, you are now a co-host, so you should be able to share your slides. I'll stop sharing.
Here we go.
And there we are. So whenever you guys are ready, get started. Laura will be keeping time.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. I'm Dr. Meg Alden. I'm Momi's Chief Medical Officer. Every day here in clinic as a pediatrician, I see moms and babies struggling with the pains, challenges, and difficulties associated with nursing, with baby bottles, and with breast pumps. This is a huge physical and emotional impact on moms, their babies, and their bonding. So when I learned that the former CEO of the world's largest breast pump company had engineered an entirely new system based on replicating the biomechanics of natural nursing, it caught my attention.
Carlene, your mic's off.
Hi, I'm Carlene Quackenbush. After years in the industry, I founded MOMI on the simple principle that natural nursing and nature are the design gold standard for the development of breast pumps and feeding systems. The products that are on the market do not meet this standard. Breast pumps are all vacuum, that is air only, whereas a baby uses liquid. There's no air in the baby's mouth. And separately, they use not only vacuum suction, but also compression of the nipple. On the feeding side, natural nipples that are on the market right now are made from a very, very hard material, hard as an auto car tire. And to make them somewhat flexible, they're hollow and they don't work the way a baby works. When the baby compresses them the way it does in natural nursing to try to shut off flow, they get, in fact, a jet of materials into their mouth, which is not at all like the natural system. So conventional products do not replicate natural nursing. Our products do, and we will show you how.
We're excited to introduce these products to address these problems.
At MOMI, our mission is to make life better for moms and their babies with our patented products that replicate natural nursing. The MOMI breast pump works like a baby's tongue, applying positive pressure to the nipple to reduce swelling and control painful edema. The MOMI bottle lets the baby control the flow of milk by using its tongue for compression, reducing nipple confusion and overfeeding. We are excited to make life better for moms and babies, naturally.
So the revolutionary nature of these products is reflected in the number of patents which these technologies have been awarded. We've been awarded we have 4 issued US patents, 4 international counterparts, 3 pending US patent applications, and a growing list of new innovations to be included in additional patent applications in the near future. And across both product categories, we're targeting a $4 billion global market. The Momi baby bottle will hit the market this summer. The production tooling is currently being manufactured, and the breast pump is in earlier stage development led by our Charlotte-based partners, Inventus and Capstone Medical. We've recently recruited Dina Carey as our Director of Marketing. Dina previously built a startup targeting the same customer base as Momi and bootstrapped direct-to-consumer revenues to over 1 million in the first year.
I'm excited to be the newest member of the Momi team here and to support the launch of such incredible products that are supporting moms and their babies. As Hal mentioned, I come from 6 years of experience marketing to this exact same target customer, the breastfeeding mom customer, and we will be deploying a proven playbook of strategies across all direct-to-consumer tactics to help build the Momi brand and grow sales. In addition to that, a major focus of our efforts is going to be a heavy healthcare influencer marketing program where we will be building brand champions out of lactation counselors, pediatricians, and other caregivers to help further build awareness and acquire customers at a much lower cost.
Our financial projection is to reach break even in 2023 after launching the breast pump with a total capital need in the $3.5 to $4 million range. We're excited by the traction we've seen by the company since founding just a year ago. We closed a $1 million seed A round in September. We're currently 35% funded towards our second 1 million seed B round. Among our investors are Charlotte-based Inventus partners, Start 100 Fund, Capstone Medical, Wisconsin Investment Partners is closing this week. And we have a number of pediatrician moms among our investors as well. We've also had some opportunities to pitch at some highly recognized places. I'm going to jump to our last slide. You've met our team. Here we are all in one slide. So to recap, we have an all-star team. We're addressing a huge problem in a huge market. We have a revolutionary, not an evolutionary solution with robust IP protection, a proven go-to-market strategy, and rapidly growing traction. And so we welcome conversations with accredited investors interested in participating in our Seed B convertible note round.
Fantastic. Thank you, Momi team. Big virtual round of applause there for that presentation. And now we're going to turn it over to the panelists.
I will go first, since I will say that one day maybe I'll have kids and this will be a useful product. I have several questions. First of all, good pitch. I think definitely I understand the area quite a bit being in healthcare. A couple of questions specifically to breaking through the noise on social media or, the changing algorithms. How are you in your direct to consumer strategy going to be able to cut through and continue to drive sales to, and I'm assuming you're targeting kind of a certain level of income and mommy use, but can you just kind of walk me through your go-to-market strategy a little more?
Sure. Yes, you're exactly right. The landscape on the social media channels has definitely been changing and will continue to change. We have some really incredible partners that we are going to be working with to help support the launch of this brand that I've been working with for many years here. And we are going to be starting very small and doing very small tests and learning as we go here. So this is not going to be throwing a lot of money at it right out of the gate. So we're going to be learning quickly and adapting. And as I mentioned in the pitch, the way we're really going to be balancing our customer acquisition efforts is between going after the end user, the mom customer, but also this heavy healthcare influencer marketing push, as we've talked about. So really focusing on that front line of caregivers that the mom is interacting with, that are having conversations with her about bottle feeding. we really expect that the healthcare community is going to be a big supporter of our brand because of how revolutionary it is and some of the research that we plan to do. And it might be great for Dr. Alden to speak to that a little bit too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dina. We've had great traction, even in brief conversations with different areas of medicine. We've spoken with plastic surgery, GI research in reflux, as well as radiology and ENT. And universally, there seems to be a huge traction in healthcare, as well as interest in fields, doulas, lactation consultants. And so really medically, with the healthcare background, it seems to just fit so many different areas. We are getting champions every time we presented.
Awesome. And then just one general question, what's the kind of price point on these products? And, you know, is it mid-range? Is it going to be more expensive product? That would be helpful to just know for me.
It is an ultra premium product on the baby bottle side. The breast pump will be more middle market in its pricing. And so it's important for us as we think about selling an ultra premium baby bottle product to be selling the need behind the need. So selling peace of mind to the mom who wants the assurance that that the baby and the mom are going to have the best possible experience transitioning from breast to bottle and back.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Shante. Couple just a quick questions. This may be a little naive, but would the pump have a medical device designation or no?
Yes, the pump is a class 2 medical device, which does have predicate devices available to go through the accelerated 510(k) approval pathway.
Yeah, so is there the equivalent of, I don't know the device space really well, is the equivalent of a trial, or will you have actually proper or, you know, statistically significant trial data as a part of the go-to-market? Is that possible, or is that a thing?
We will not have to go through the full pre-market through the entire clinical trial process because we can rely on predicate devices. We will, of course, have user test data from all the way through our process.
Okay, thanks. On the pricing and so just in the context of the pitch, that was obviously you know, great content and looked good. It was well organized, good message. It was very fast, so I didn't get to see the economics. I don't know if you can throw that back up or not, but you know, I know it seems to me like you didn't want to tell what the price is. That's okay. You may not know yet. I'm curious the unit economics when you're direct to consumer and you suggest a really short like time horizon on break even. It's nice sometimes as a potential investor to see what that unit economics are. So as to say, hey, if we're going to break even in I think you said 23 or 24, all we have to do is capture X% of the market. That's this many units. Becomes very like believable on a direct to consumer basis because the cost of customer acquisition and direct to consumer just continues to kind of skyrocket. It's very high. That doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it's expensive. And so when I see those break-even curves, I like to see alongside of them some quick notion of unit economics and percent of market, because I suspect you guys can break even with probably a pretty small number of units and probably a fractional percent of market. And that's a good thing. I mean, it tells a very good story that you don't have to go out and grab a bunch of market share to actually, you know, make a go of it.
Yes, we are planning to launch the baby bottle at a 65 to 70% gross margin. We've also gotten really creative in ways we can drive down our customer acquisition cost by recruiting audiences among those who will be champions for us and putting the word out for free, like lactation consultants.
Mm-hmm.
And so we believe we'll be able to drive a very low cost of customer acquisition relative to how the market has gone in that area.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any unit sales forecasts for the forward-looking, 36 months?
We do, and I don't have it at zip in my tongue, but we have a 5-year forecast and various models to forecast that out.
Okay, great. That's kind of I think that's always the interesting part to me is like, because it's great when you see those numbers and you're like, hey, these guys only have to sell, 10,000 units in 3 years or whatever to break even or whatever the number is. So that's I just like that slide alongside of the kind of macroeconomic point of view.
That's good feedback. We'll make sure we include that.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity this morning.
Awesome.
If I
Thanks, Momi team. Oh,
We're good.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask one more question, but we can move on.
No,
No, we
go
have
ahead.
a minute. We have a minute, so we're good.
So I'm always very curious on your intellectual property strategy. I see lots of patents, which can be good. It can also be super expensive. I'm curious as to what your strategy is for securing patents and rolling forward as you continue to build the company and sell product.
Want me to take that?
Go ahead, Carlene.
So the patents have all been written by me, researched by me. I have a local Boston-based IP company, and the deal there was I'll do all the grunt work, you put it in legal terms. So what we're looking for is the basic coverage of these things to differentiate them from things that are in the market. And then they were focused on what parts of the world we were going after. So for example, the nipple has patents, I believe these are very, very strong patents, number one. Second, the nipple patent is done in the US. And then I've secured protection by filing PCT in China, Japan, Europe, and Korea. These are countries where the usage of nipples is going to be very high.
I would just add one quick footnote to that. Carlene is an incredibly prolific innovator. And so we have products in the pipeline that we haven't even shown this morning. And so as long as he continues to innovate, we're going to continue to gain protection on that so that we have a robust pipeline for downstream.
Ooh. I know we're almost out of time. One last note. And this may have been up there, but again, went too fast. But anytime I see the financial ask, I always love to see use of proceeds, especially when talking about, actual product development like this, where there's like real time and money and design and engineering and IP that goes into it, just so you have an idea about, what percentage of the total raise is going to be required in order to finalize product before you can go to market. You can kind of know what's left for marketing efforts there. So, and obviously the purpose of knowing that is to know that you will likely need follow-on capital. What's the scale of that, and what kind, how will I be diluted as a Series A guy? So, anyways,
very good. Thanks.
Thanks, Momi team. Great presentation. Again, if anybody has any additional questions for the Momi team, go ahead and jump in the chat. You can ask them there, or you can chat with them when we get to the networking portion. Also, a quick programming note here. It looks like there was a setting issue and some people weren't able to get in before. So if you are on the live stream and you weren't able to get in on the Zoom link, you can go ahead and try that now. That should be open. Everybody should be able to go in. We're going to love to have you when we get to the networking portion. All right. So with that, one quick announcement, and then we're going to move on to Threefold. Okay, so the Venture Prize launch, we've got a deadline coming up, Laura, I think of tonight. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, today at 5.
Today at 5.
Yeah, today at 5. But yes, so Venture Prize launch is taking applications for our new cohort. It will start on the 17th and it'll go throughout March. It is all virtual. But this is a 6-week customer discovery program. And you've heard many panelists on Pitch Breakfast always, reinforce and ask, what problem are you solving? Where's your market? And that's what we go through. We actually have a 6-week program that helps you really define that problem, that your solution, and have that fit and that target market. So we work for 6 weeks on that. A lot of our programming also goes to help you get funding, NC IDEA, other grants. So again, let me know. My email is lsmales@uncc.edu. I'll put it in the chat if you have any questions. And then our website is entrepreneurship.uncc.edu.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Laura. So with that, we're going to be moving on to the next company, Threefold. Jessica, you are now a co-host, so you should be able to share your slides whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you guys for this opportunity as well. Okay. All right. Well, hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jessica Kelly. I am the founder and CEO of Threefold. Threefold is a SaaS platform providing apparel brands with access to an ethical supply chain and training so they can grow their business for people, planet, and profit. Before I get into how that works, I want to take you back to 2013. I had been working for a few years in the fashion industry in New York City already, and had loved what I was doing, but really started to feel a disconnect between my work and a deeper meaning and impact that was having. That same year, a massive factory collapsed in Dhaka, Bangladesh, killing over 1,100 people in one day. And it awoken the world to the issues hidden in fashion supply chain, and people started demanding change. And I began my own journey of figuring out how I could use fashion to create sustainable, safe employment for people around the world. And I started to learn a couple things. First, fashion is the largest labored industry in the world, and 97% of apparel sold in the US is actually made in developing nations where these jobs matter most. As I went along this journey, it sent me over to India for a research and development trip with this idea that I had. And I encountered incredible factories, both small scale and large scale, that were doing things like employing women rescued out of sex trafficking, providing daycare for employees' children, and having machines that dye denim with one glass of water. So these excellent factories did exist, but all of their websites were terrible, making it pretty obvious that it's really hard to find good factories. Now, the best thing about what we're actually doing is, even if you don't care about your brand standards as a production team, sourcing is actually a constant pain. So you are dealing with finding factories on a continual basis. You may not know that, but brands are actually always looking for new factories, and they don't have great options to find them. They're asking colleagues, they're searching their inbox. Once they do find a factory, they have to actually start sampling. And with $642 billion of goods returned every year, this is a huge liability for brands to figure out that price and quality fit. And they spend up to 6 months and $10,000 twice a year getting this to work. So how we work as our platform is we begin by vetting factories based on their ethical certifications that they have in place. Now, as a brand, you can be an Eileen Fisher, Outland Denim, your production team, and you come in, you can see all of our factories on the database. You can filter by the production that you're actually looking for. And you can learn more about the factory, the standards they had that allowed them to be accepted onto the platform, any more information you might be looking for. You can message the factory directly to get more information, and you can share your project to get a price quote and compare pricing with other factories. Now on the dashboard, all of your production lives in one place. You can see how far along you are in your production, if you're missing any deadlines, and you can also see a bird's eye view to stay on track and not let anything fall through the cracks, which is often a problem as well in production. So we have been working on this and gaining some traction that we're excited about. We have built that MVP you just saw for 10,000 with a team in Bangladesh. We've had 80 factories apply and 10 brands purchase the early membership to the platform. And we're starting to hit some revenue and build, and we're getting some big brands that are starting to be interested in what we're doing, but we obviously need better tech, more of a team to be able to build that out. As we move forward, we do have a great team in place. I myself bring 10 years of experience in New York in the fashion industry, working with hundreds of brands, helping them grow in marketing, sales, and PR, and have been on the ground finding those factories firsthand. And Megan, who just joined our team, is bringing 10 years of experience in production and design from New York and Hong Kong. So she has a firsthand understanding of both our brand and our factory consumer, which has helped us really create a great strategy. Our board of advisors has a wealth of experience in their own right, from 10 to 20 years of experience with notable brands as well. So between our network, we're super connected to the customers, to where we can grow and actually also build a team. Now we're a two-sided marketplace, so our revenue comes from annual brand memberships as well as the commission we charge factories on new business that comes their way. And we've been able to utilize our training, which is a la carte revenue, this past year to grow in a year when a lot of the production was shut down and very unstable. So as we move forward, we're really focusing on that platform revenue and growth, and it's getting us up to 20 million in revenue with a really healthy 80% profit margin. This is in addition to keeping that Bangladesh team so that we can keep some of those tech costs lower, and then focusing a lot on that platform revenue as we really grow forward. So We are currently working on a 500,000 pre-seed round at the moment, and would love for anyone interested to join us. And that is so that we can increase the UX, UI, and the capability and offering we have in our platform, as well as really prove out that pricing and product fit for our customer. Early conversations are showing we can actually charge a lot more. And so we're excited about that learning and start to build that early traction so that we can then move forward and get a team and continue to scale up. The opportunity here to provide jobs for people around the world is extremely significant. I've seen it firsthand, and I would love for you to join us in creating fashion industry for people, planet, and profit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And Steve and Dr. Williams, if you'd like to turn on your cameras. And Steve, you can go ahead and start this time.
Okay, great. Well, good pitch. I always love some storytelling, especially something that's got some meaning. So good on you for seeing that that issue. There's lots of those issues, not just in the apparel supply chain, but in everybody's supply chains, unfortunately. So so I like that. I think it appeals well. I think timing is good for things like that. I would say that generally the pitch flow is good. There's a few things that I would point out. One is, you know, the software side of this is in my wheelhouse a little bit. So I've spent my life in software engineering, and I would like to see a little bit more on the platform and the technology. If you have one of your founding members or an early employee who has experience technically in these areas, I'd like to put that forward as well too. And I'll tell you the reason why. The platform that is kind of described here, I can see it to be important and valuable for sure. It's very wide in terms of class of software. When you look at, you know, vetting and the information that's necessary to be able to vet these places, and so you've got kind of a mini publishing platform. Then you look at, you know, being able to upload a project. You've got, you know, specking kind of capability. You've got the beginnings of a marketplace, because the other side can then turn and quote and bid that. And then you've got the project management or production class of software, which is to manage a project. And an apparel project, those, you know, details are substantial, managing them offshore. I don't know how often these outsourced third-party supply chain people are used to being in and out of systems at a level where that kind of project management software can yield really meaningful kind of production, you know, status and information for producers. So my question is just, you know, or my thought is, if we're going to have a really wide platform like that kind of traverses multiple classes of software, I'd want more technical detail in the pitch. I also think, for what it's worth, which I would characterize as not much, but I'll give it a shot anyways. There's so much value in the vetting, the being able to post a project and get a quote in the marketplace side of that. I just wonder about the necessity of all the time and effort and engineering that might go into managing projects, because again, that's a very complicated class of software and gets very sophisticated very quickly. And there's lots of people that just do that. All they do is software platforms for supply chains and even apparel, specifically to manage apparel projects. So I just wonder if there isn't there's so much value proposition in the first half, if the rest of it is really necessary. That's obviously a very big question. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. That's the thinking I have, because I've seen it many times. I'm in 4 or 5 deals right now, early stage software deals, and they all are running, you know, somewhere in between 5 and 10 times as expensive to build the software as the entrepreneurs originally estimate. So the wider, the harder, the more complicated, the more competition, the more expensive, the narrower, you know, the simpler, you know, the quicker to market, and potentially the more success you can have on execution and UI and all the hard parts of software. So anyways, my thought. I like the pitch, good flow, a little bit more technical would be great. I think the value proposition is fantastic. So
Thank you.
Dr. Shante, you have your...
Did I use all 8 minutes, Shante? Sorry.
She is, yeah, she's, there she goes.
There we go.
Okay.
I was on mute.
There you go.
I was talking away actually, but I will echo all of the things that Steve said in a non-technical voice in 2 ways. One, I would say I would love to see a mini demo, because unlike Steve, I don't have that deep technical software development bench. And so in my head, it's very hard for me to translate what we see like right now on the screen to something that's really dynamic and moves around. So I'm one of those investors that always likes to see some kind of demo or some sort of walkthrough so that it doesn't feel flat to me. And then, yes, it's always 10, 20, 1,000 times more expensive than everybody thinks. And then there are clearly some potential pitfalls for developing offshore the longer you're in business. But I do have a question about wrapping up all of these certifications into something that maybe one day looks like, you know, the gold seal of approval. Is that something that you may be considering so that if a factory, for example, checked all the boxes, it's very easy to spot those factories? Or are you saying everybody in your database has all of these practices and are already certified and they're ready to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. So we are beginning with ethical certifications, specifically these 6, because this is the best we have on the industry right at this moment. The certification process is flawed. There are cracks in it. These 6 certifications require an outside auditing body. So someone has personally gone in the factory twice a year and is checking. It's not a self audit, which there are certifications out there that do that. We absolutely want to create a bridge in the future as we move forward with that. I think that there's a lot of great factories I've spoken with who can afford the $2,000 certification that seem like they're wonderful operations. But I think that there's some work to and some creative thinking to be done there around how we can use technology to use transparency and polling of staff members. And I think there's some overlap opportunities there where we can bring other factories onto the platform that aren't currently certified, as well as create continued transparency even with the certified factories. So I think in the future, some of that work will involve working with local governments and nonprofits to get some of that movement off the ground. But for the time being, this was not a place we needed to reinvent the wheels. So we're starting with what the industry had to begin with.
Agreed. So no, I like that. I think from choosing a vendor standpoint, I always like, oh, the ones at the top are not just the ones that paid more to be listed, but literally those are the ones that check literally all the boxes. And there's an easy visual standout for me to know they have all of these things. I would ask, it's kind of maybe a crummy question, but at least US centric consumer patterns tend to favor cheap stuff because they want to pay a lower price point. How do you convince the factories or the vendors who are sending these things out to these production facilities to maybe absorb a little higher cost because they are paying for, you know, more expensive labor or something like that? You know, is there a real market niche where you can say, hey, yes, their production costs a little more and it maybe doesn't pass on to the end user, or end users or consumers are willing to absorb that cost?
Yeah, so there's actually a bit of a difference between what I would consider ethical labor versus ethical fashion versus sustainable fashion. So you're going to see a lot more of that price increase with sustainability because fabric is actually the most expensive part of the garment. And then anything else you do with that, naturally dyeing it, things like that, is going to make it even more expensive. One of the factories I was in India is an H&M, Target, Kohl's factory. So I've seen excellent ethical labor happening at these big brand factories. So it is possible at scale. I feel like that's where it's really going to vary, and sustainability is such a sliding scale that's where that depends. And I mean, I'm from Charlotte. I know that we're never going to hit a day where people stop shopping at Old Navy. That is their budget. And so I want to make sure that we have a 100% ethically made fashion industry. I don't think anyone should be enslaved for the clothes that we wear. And I think that that's entirely possible.
Yeah, I have to say one thing. Sorry, Shante. The broker community is huge in this transaction. Is there any, or maybe offline in the chat room we can talk, but I'm curious, my little bit of experience in apparel development, suggested that you can both have an incredible experience and be absolutely have a criminal experience with the broker community that's on the ground in these countries. Is there any possibility of extending your network to also vetting the broker community? Because a lot of the small brands, not the big brands that are going to send people and staff it themselves, but the small brands can't afford to have people on the ground in these countries to oversee production. And so I wonder about where brokers sit in it.
Yeah, there's definitely possibility for that. Basically, what I see with this platform is it's the beginning stages of what we're creating with an ethical fashion ecosystem. So the most obvious place we can expand to more immediately would be into material sourcing and packaging. So we're starting to do even more of that brand's supply chain. But there's a lot of intersections that come with production. And so whether that's brokers, whether that's talent, there's a lot of opportunities there. But yeah, I think we're creating an opportunity where kind of the travel industry had a travel agent and now you just go to Airbnb and book it yourself. This is where brands can have direct access to an entire database of whatever they might want to make, instead of having to find the right person and like look for jobbers and figure out who can find the right person, and they're all limited in their connections. So I think there's opportunity for that as a leg, but it's bypassing and creating a lot more just immediate availability.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Do the applause. And you did, if you can look at the chat, there were some things during your pitch, so you might want to respond to some of those as the next pitch comes up. And Eric, I believe you are on deck after Juan does his next announcement.
Yep. So Eric, you should be co-host, so you'll be able to share your screen in just a minute. But before you do, a real quick announcement. There is an event here, RevTech Labs, PayCLT, and KPMG are going to be holding 1 week from today, I believe, at 5 p.m., called The Rise of Contactless Payments. So the rise of contactless payments, they're going to be talking all about contactless payments, and they're putting together a good group of people to chat on that. So that's going to be on Remo. We'll throw the link in the chat room if anybody is interested in checking that out next week. All right, Eric, so you should be good to go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. Let's see.
And we are seeing it.
All right. Good morning, Pitch Breakfast. My name is Eric Westerdoen, and my company is Calvin's Craft. We make eco-friendly dog products from recycled waste streams. What does that mean? Right now, what we do here in Charlotte is we take spent grains from local breweries, which usually either get thrown away or donated to farmers, and we upcycle them into dog treats. Our products are sold direct to the consumer via our website, and also business to business via a network of retailers. Those include breweries, liquor stores, pet supply stores, and we're expanding into sort of more big box retailers. We also have plans and product pipeline to expand beyond just treats. We already have like a dog beer that we make, extending into then hopefully chews, food, toys, and other accessories. And you heard Jessica mention sort of people, planet, profit. We're very similar, but it's more pets, planet, profit. And if you can remember one thing from this pitch about us, we're basically taking that old saying, one man's junk is another man's treasure, and we're making it into a business model that's sort of pet-centric and sustainable. So why are we special? Number one is that we seek out sources of free inputs or ingredients. So we're looking at industrial waste streams, like I mentioned, the spent grains that make our treats, or in the future, we're looking at textile remnants from cut and sew factories to make toys out of, similar to what Cotopaxi does in human garments. Our manufacturing, that's one thing. We've set up a proprietary process for some of this because it's not, when you use these upcycled ingredients, it's not necessarily easy to go to a third-party manufacturer and just say, here's this stuff, can you figure it out and make it for us? And then on the back end, we're doing some interesting things with packaging where our treats are coming in beer cans like this, and it's not something that was necessarily an off the shelf solution. Innovative, obviously, I think we have a pipeline of pretty creative products and looking at different waste streams to upcycle. And then distribution, I think, obviously there's that plan to get into the traditional places like a Petco, PetSmart, Chewy, Amazon, all that. But the interesting thing, what we've done now is we've gone into some places where we don't have competition. Like we're selling dog treats through breweries, bottle shops, liquor stores, those kind of places that where they didn't traditionally sell dog treats, and we don't have any competition. Size of the market, big and only getting bigger, I can say. I think we can all probably, off the top of our head, think of a couple people we know that adopted a dog during quarantine. And also the demographics are changing with dog ownership. Millennials are treating their dogs more like family and spending on them accordingly. So the market, kind of the economics there for us and the trends are really favorable. And then the last part of that is especially consumers. And I think, Jessica kind of touched on this in a little bit in her pitch as well. People are looking for those, sustainable solutions, eco-friendly, ethically sourced, ethically manufactured, and we're playing in that space as well. So proof of concept, this is something that we self-funded for the last year just to develop the initial product, kind of test the market. We quickly ran into the issue of the product was selling way more than we could possibly produce. And then the profitability as well, for one can of dog treats, our cost to produce this is about 50 cents, and we're selling those direct to the consumer on our website for $10, and then by the case quantity to retailers at $5 a piece. And then, like I said, the biggest issue we're having now and why we're out seeking this seed funding round is because we need some upgraded machinery to meet the demand that we have. So where do I see this in 3 years? I see a big piece of this being, a D2C company. I think the brand is fun. It's interesting. It's, mimics a lot of the other, D2C consumer products that have been successful online. I also think there's obviously a large B2B side to this business going through some traditional, pet product retailers, but even some non-traditional spaces, like I mentioned, selling the dog treats in liquor stores and stuff like that, where people are grabbing some beer and they see a can of dog treats. It's a great impulse purchase. And then the last piece of this is there's a pretty big white label opportunity where, we've had some initial conversations with, some breweries where we'd say like, hey, let's do a mixed pack and put it in the grocery store where it's a 12 pack and there's 11 beers and 1 can of dog treats in there. So I think there's some interesting, fun things we can do there.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
We're going to turn it over to the panelists now.
And I'm going to go ahead and say that it's Dr. Williams' turn to go first.
Okay,
She should always go first, really.
We're going to make it. We're going to just bounce back and forth. That's the fun part.
Well, this is interesting to me. I do not have a pet, but I would be curious as far as your sales go. How many of your sales are repeat customers? I know my mom's dog barely likes treats. And so she has to find something that the dog will eat the first time and then continue to eat. So kind of what's your repeat customer traction really looking like as far as?
Yeah. So on the consumer side of the business, we've seen about 20-25% repeat purchases. And that's, the D2C side through the website. On the wholesale side where, we have a sales team that's calling on these accounts, it's been more like 75-80%. I will say with both of those numbers could actually be much higher, but kind of going back to why we're raising this money in the first place, sometimes we have to temper what we're able to do with kind of marketing emails to existing customers, that kind of thing, because at a lot of times we're just we're already back ordered, we're behind, and so we're like, okay, let's not go out and push the button on hopefully getting a bunch more sales when we already can't meet the demand that we have. So I'd say, I guess 20-25 on the consumer side, 75-80 on the wholesale side, but I think those numbers could be higher.
Awesome. Two more questions. One, is there a rate limiting factor that'll come with the spent grain usage? And then the other question is, super cute concept. I like the product. I can see it in a brewery, you know, it's all of those things. How are you keeping out copycats or competitors of just, you know, kind of stealing the same theme and going forward and being a direct competitor, even if it's not, you know, the same quality?
Yeah, and so if I understand your first question, it was just, is there a supply constraint for us?
Yeah.
So we've kind of done some rough numbers, and that's one of the things that makes us a uniquely Charlotte opportunity, in that we have so many craft breweries here, and then right up the street in Asheville, we have a whole nother batch of some pretty big craft breweries. And just kind of back of the envelope calculation in terms of what kind of supply that looks like. If we could possibly exhaust all that supply, then we'd probably be the largest dog treat manufacturer in the country. So I really hope we get to that point. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
So, and then, and on the second part of that, kind of copycats, one part of it is on the supply side, making those supply arrangements a little bit more formal and contracted. So kind of, tying up the supply of spent grains at the breweries is one way. The other is kind of like I mentioned, one of the challenges of this, but it also kind of is a barrier to entry for copycats, is that you can't just go to a third-party manufacturer and say, here's this bucket of spent grains, please turn it into dog treats and put it in a beer can. Because on the front end, those spent grains are they're perishable. They have a shelf life. They start fermenting after a couple of days. And how contract manufacturers work, you can't just show up on their doorstep with something and say, you need to run this now. They have their kind of schedule. And then on the back end and I don't know, let's see. Sorry, and I can show this. So these are our cans here. We actually put them in a beer can with us, top here. And so we're actually putting a solid product in a can that's meant for liquids, which there isn't kind of off the shelf stuff to do that. So we had to, kind of create that process. And so I guess short answer is there's no way to, there's no patentability here. There's nothing that we can absolutely keep people from copying us. But I think, it's something that would be a little bit difficult to do. And, we're betting on kind of being first to market there. And, I think if someone does copy us, then hey, it's flattering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, copying is the greatest form of flattery. That's right.
Yeah.
A couple things. Funny story. The first billionaire I ever met about 30 years ago was a guy on an airplane to Vegas, and in talking to him, I asked him what he did, and he said, "I'm the guy that went around to all the tire stores, and said, I want to pick up your flat tires and recycle them." And the reason why I say that is because I think you hit on some really important things that I was getting ready to ask at the end that kind of Shantae brought out with her questions. Not only is it a good idea, I believe it is absolutely critical that you tie up supply. And you have to go to these breweries and you have to get them to commit their supply to you, because if that really is intrinsic to the brand, the upcycling part, and it's not just a cute dog treat, then you could have some real supply issues. And I think especially at the rate something like this could grow on the consumer side. So I would take that part really seriously. The other reason why it's super important is because the logistics costs, I know you've got tons of margin right now, but at scale, the logistics of that, there's a big difference in cost between sourcing that spent grain from Asheville than there is from, Sycamore Brewing, right?
Yep.
And so you want to build that cost into the cost of goods sold, and the more local supply you can tie up, the absolute better you are. I'd be knocking on those doors tomorrow trying to lock them up.
Yeah, Steve, that's actually, so part of the genesis of this idea was my previous backgrounds in mergers and acquisitions and investment banking, and actually doing consumer products, and specifically a lot of pet stuff actually. But one of the most profitable deals I ever saw was, it's funny, you sat next to a billionaire with the tire guy. We did a deal for the company that they were the first ones to discover how profitable the used cooking oil was for McDonald's.
That's right.
And they, McDonald's used to pay to get that stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
So they, not only were they getting it for free, they were getting paid to take it, and then they got wise eventually. But and so that always just stuck with me. And then with seeing all the breweries around here and realizing there was that big supply here, saying like, okay, what else can we do with that? And then that's, I think, where the interesting part of this story goes is, okay, this is one aspect of it, but once we expand into kind of some other products in the pet world, looking at, okay, not just spent grain, but some other industrial waste streams that can be upcycled into a product.
Yeah, I think that I think you're exactly right. It sounds like you got some good experience there. The other reason why I am kind of, not concerned, why I would advocate for a lot of energy and emphasis around locking in the supply chain is, and I say this because my wife is, a big animal person. Our family is as well too. She works with North Mech, and we adopt out, a couple hundred dogs a year. Dogs are and animals are like people. They are finicky, and so there's a question of quality. Like I bet that all that spent brewery waste is not made or created equal, and maybe some of it has to do with what the process was, maybe some of it has to do with what they were making at the time. But there's a chance that some of it could impact quality, and even you could release a batch that may or may not be desirable to pets. I'm sure you're testing stuff and that kind of thing, but I just think in this space where there is competition, but you have a really cool and unique concept that that's staying really close to the brand and the real genesis and the real impetus of the brand, upcycling, and then also just making sure you absolutely lock down supply so you can manage quality could end up being the real competitive advantage, because it's very difficult then to enter the market. And outside of your canning and that kind of thing are all unique, they're all good stuff, and they give you some moat. But I think quality is a thing that I would care about a lot as well too.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thanks, panelists. Thanks, Eric, so much. Virtual Zoom applause there for another great pitch. And we're going to move right along because we're running short on time here. So Ryan, give me just 1 second to share.
Shantae, quit talking so much.
She's coming back for you on that one. I'm going to go ahead and pull that one out right now.
All right. Real quick announcement. Next Wednesday, I was wrong. The other event was on Thursday, but on Wednesday, I got my events mixed up. We've got the Packer Place Public House Unlearning Series. February 17th, it's going to be the Unlearning Leadership and Diversity event with Mike Metcalf. That is going to be Wednesday, February 17th, 1 week from today at 5 o'clock. You can find this on, you can find this event on Eventbrite. All right, Ryan, whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
And we can see your slides.
Perfect. So hi, I'm Ryan Roberts. I'm one of the co-founders of Bustled. Bustled is a wedding planner in your pocket that matches engaged couples and wedding vendors, manages contracts, payments, communication, and more. Oops. Couples want a central place to plan without feeling overwhelmed. Currently, they have two bad options. One, brochure web directories, which can be overwhelming, not personal, at times have conflicting information, and there's no way for couples to track their payments or contracts or communication. And then on the other side, you have social recommendations, whether it be through word of mouth, whether it be through Instagram or Pinterest, Facebook. There's no central way to search. There's no tools for planning, and it may not even fit in your budget. The solution is Bustled, a wedding planning platform that simplifies this $31 billion industry. With the Bustled web app, couples will have the ability to manage their wedding end to end. So with a central dashboard that will manage their contracts and payments with a personalized algorithm, and then vendors will have a platform that will allow them to keep track of payments and contracts as well. So how does this work? Couples sign up, take a 2-minute quiz, and search for vendors based on locality, based on their style, budget, what matters the most to them. And then couples will then be able to message vendors through the dashboard. They will be able to sign contracts, pay vendors via the dashboard with a credit card, which is a critical issue in the industry where mostly vendors will only accept checks and disparate contracts, and everything's kind of all over the place. And then money will be deposited into vendors' bank account, less a 10% service fee. Couples will be able to reduce their planning time in half And vendors will only pay for their placement if they actually make money, meaning that our goals are aligned. Our competitive advantage here is that we will have this all-in-one platform. We will provide digital wedding planning advice, as well as, again, no money commitment from the vendors themselves. So how did we get here? My wife, Sammy, and I started this company 4.5 years ago. We like to call this Bustled 1.0. We started originally in Charlotte as a marketplace similar to those directory sites with a subscription model where vendors paid a monthly subscription to be a part of our site. We grew across 5 states, hundreds of subscribed vendors, thousands of registered engaged couple users. Everything was going really well. We closed a small angel round at the end of 2019, staffed up in February, and then boom, COVID hit in March, which hit the wedding industry particularly hard. As part of our pivot, we launched a virtual wedding platform called LoveStream, where we can actually live stream weddings anywhere in the world as long as there's internet connection. This has actually taken off really well. We've done over 250 weddings over the last 9 or so months, generated over 180K in revenue, thousands of virtual wedding guests in over 107 countries. So as you can see here, it's kind of a typical COVID chart, right? So in April, things got really bleak. We knew we had to make a change. The really cool thing is if you look back in January of 2020, we had generated around 16K in cash in revenue that month. In this past January, we did 40K. So even in a time where the wedding industry has seen the industry spend go from 60 billion to 30 billion, we were able to grow by more than double. And we have some great ways to grow going forward with what we call Bustled 2.0. One is that 10% service fee for all contracts booked through our platform. We will also be providing a virtual wedding planning package for couples to be able to ask questions, go through their checklists, budget questions, things of that nature. This will be a good revenue channel, but more importantly, it'll help activate couples to use the platform in the way we intend it. We'll continue to invest and grow with LoveStream as that will be a continual product as we go forward. And then we will also get back to what we've done really well with Bustled 1.0 with the digital promotion through social media, through our podcasts and advertising. Some of the key milestones to pay attention to is in April, we will be launching our new MVP of 2.0 in New York and California. By July, we anticipate generating monthly revenue of 13K from 2.0. August, we go national. And then by the end of the year, we anticipate hitting 181K in total revenue that month. I come from a data and tech background with the focus on consultative sales. And my wife and co-founder, Sammy, has spent over 12 years in events and run her own wedding planning company here in Charlotte for the last 7 years. We are now a team of 7, predominantly of hospitality event pros. And we're very excited to kind of grow. And then we are seeking $500,000 against a $5 million valuation to finish development on 2.0, drive more growth marketers, and add some staff. You got me, Laura. You got me.
Nice.
I thought I had it.
No, you did it. I am so Great job.
Great job.
So I'm going to try and jump in here and maybe break through some of this background chatter. But I will ask 2 quick questions. I'm very curious as to the implications post-COVID, assuming we all get off of house arrest and punishment here and we actually go back to the real world. What are the implications on LoveStream? And how do you see that post-COVID or post-COVID conditions? And then who's vetting, or how do you vet suppliers to, ensure quality and, all of the things that go into having a great experience during your wedding?
Amazing question. So first with LoveStream, we think LoveStream is going to continue to grow, but at a certain point it's going to plateau. It's going to be kind of like you have a photo booth, you have, something more, not necessarily a key vendor, like you have a photographer or a venue, but it's going to be something that people are like, oh, I should get that. Oh, my grandparents can't be there, or, your sister's pregnant and she can't travel, whatever it may be, right? It's always going to be with us and it's going to be a great revenue channel, but it's not going to get us to 100 million a year in revenue. To your other question, the vetting was a critical part of Bustled 1.0. My wife being a wedding planner, we know what a bad vendor and a good vendor looks like. So our team will actually is very astute at looking through websites and through social and through reviews. We can actually, with pretty good accuracy, determine if someone's going to be a good vendor or not.
Okay. I will save time for Steve and be more gracious than he is in general.
Thank you, Dr.
That is nice setup, Shante. Thank you.
She's looking at ambitions.
Let's see. Yeah. So I first of all, the flow of the pitch was very solid. Hit like all the typical things for me. What you have been doing, traction with customers. I think your story about pivoting successfully is super important because it speaks to the resilience of the management team. I think the fact that birthed a new product for you is fantastic. And your wife, that's wonderful. I liked the revenue, customers, the ask, the use of proceeds. So all those things I think lined up really well. So good pitch. I am particularly interested in the live stream side. I think so you made a comment about that plateauing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that isn't the $100 million business. I mean, the other side of the business is obviously super important. Your wife has domain expertise, and so there's no reason not to pursue it. I'm always, and she's been in this business, so obviously this is a very naive point of view, but sitting in the middle of a buyer and seller transaction, especially potentially one of the most sensitive and important transactions that a couple might make, is a hell of a job. And it's a hell of a job personally, and it's really a hell of a job in software. So I wonder about that a little bit and some of the challenges that presents. I would say I would not downplay in the pitch at all the scale of revenue on the streaming side of the business. I agree with you. I think streaming is here to stay. I think it's a use case that might change, but as you indicated, there's a lot of reasons why you might still want to live stream your wedding. And I just think that I would like to see, in terms of pitch feedback for you, very good. I'd like to see that idea on par with the rest of the idea in the business from a pitch standpoint. And the way you presented it was kind of, so we had to do this and we made money, and so that'll stick around. I would say like, and so we had to do this and we came up with this great thing and it's produced instant revenue for us. And now it's a really important part of our product portfolio. And here's how we're going to invest in that alongside of everything else in terms of use of proceeds and the capital raise, because I just think that has a lot maybe of potential, and maybe it doesn't plateau, I guess is what I'm thinking. So I would just bring that aspect of the pitch up to on par with everything else.
No, I appreciate that. That's great.
I would like to give it back to Shante in the event that I, overstepped. I want to make sure I say what on that. No, I think there's a lot of, I'd love to see exactly what you're talking about, because I don't even think in my head I thought, oh, such and such couldn't travel, or this is a destination wedding and everybody can't, hop on a plane and be there. So I think that's an excellent idea. And thinking about it and framing in that way, then you don't have to say that it's a COVID pivot, it's a COVID opportunity. And I think that's really good feedback from Steve. Yeah, I'll point out, and what Shantae's saying is exactly right. And I would just say this, Ryan, and your wife probably knows this firsthand, so she can feel free if she's on, she can call bullshit on me. But, ask everybody that's in the chat room. There's 100 people on here. For those of you that are married, amongst all the arguments that happen between husband and wife in getting ready for marriage, certainly for me, for the so far 2 times I've been married, who knows, maybe it'll be another one. The most succinct argument that I had with my wife was who gets invited. And if you're streaming the wedding, you have the potential to take the friction out of one of the biggest problems with wedding planning, which is how much can we afford and who gets invited, right? And so that's one of the reasons why fundamentally I think that you've hit on something with the streaming side that has tremendous potential, because if you can take that friction out of that decision for couples in a meaningful way, I think you've achieved something really interesting there.
Oh, that's a great, I haven't thought about it that way. That's great.
You've got a test market in Steve already 2 times. So
yeah, awesome. If you can get this thing really humming, I'll go for another one and try it out. Just don't tell my current wife.
Awesome, guys. Thank you guys so much. Big round of applause for Ryan from Bustled, and also a huge round of applause. Big thank you for Steve and Dr. Shantae Williams. You guys are always great panelists. We love the discussion. We love the insights. A big reminder to everybody, if you've got questions for either the panelists or any of the companies, please drop them into the chat room. I see there's some conversations there, some comments there for you, Ryan, if you want to check out. And we're going to break here into networking here in just a second. All right. So first, real quick, I do want to mention the Innovate Charlotte program. If you are interested in getting a mentor for your business or in becoming a mentor for your for businesses, go to www.inclt.org. That's the Innovate Charlotte website, and you can learn there how more about our mentorship program and how you can get a mentor or a team of mentors for your company or become a mentor yourself. So what's going to happen next is we're going to go into breakout rooms. We're going to have one room for each of the company that presented, as well as one